What it is, what it ain't, what it gonna be like. What's happening, everybody on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, ONYXCON Network, where we represent living your best art life. All right, we always about the creative space. We always about the creative perspective, lens, filter, if you will. And I am your host, Joseph R. Wheeler III, the artist, founder, and president of the ONYXCON Foundation. Welcome back. Now, today, I'm trying my best to talk a little louder than usual, just because I know my voice is a little groggy. I'm dealing with a little bit of congestion, and I don't want that to affect my my impact of everything I want to speak on today. So, and also because this is a live, there can be and will be, I'm sure, interruptions as usual when I do these types of lives or whatever. So, there will be breaks in the content where, I gotta take a minute, come back to it, take a minute, come back to it. Like, I think it's about to happen right now because I think this is my order. Yeah, I think this is it. I'm doing my work at the same time. Courier work, it never stops. Gotta pay them bills, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna get this order and I will be right back. All right. All right. Okay, we back, y'all. And we are loaded. So we gonna get to it like we know how to do it, because we do it daily. All right, so ONYXCON music special. We're talking about Verzuz. Verzuz happened last night. It was a West Coast party, okay? Or as the two performers would say, ain't nothing but a gangster party. And I mean, literally. God, hey, I said, what? What? I mean, I knew it would end up looking what it looked like once I saw what it was. Now, I didn't even know this was happening. I admit, the Verzuz always sneak up on me. Am I the only one, or do y'all be feeling the same way? Anybody who keeps up with Verzuz a little bit? Like, you always seem to just like cut on YouTube the day of and see, oh, that's what's happening right now. And if you just hadn't have cut it on when you did, you wouldn't have known. That's literally what happened. I literally sat down, and I'm talking about on the dot. I swear, that was weird. I guess that's why I watched the whole thing, which really blows my mind that I made it through the whole thing. But I'll tell you why I know I sat through the whole thing, and it definitely wasn't because I'm the absolute greatest fan of either artist, but I do appreciate both of some of their best contributions to the art space, you feel me? Particularly the game, okay, Verzuz YG, all right? Because I don't think I said it yet. Yeah, it was the game Verzuz YG, and it just, it was on YouTube. It was everywhere on YouTube. As usual, you got the bootleg sites where people do the watch parties and stuff like that, and then you got the actual feed from, I think it was, is it Apple that owns it or whatever not? Whoever owns it. I like to watch the main feed because I don't want to hear all that side commentary from somebody I don't know and don't know where their headspace is at and all. I don't need all that. And I was happy and I'm so happy that we got to an era where they do have it on YouTube, because at one time you couldn't. All you had was them bootleg parties. And I don't know about you, but those, what? You be like, who are you and why do I care what you think? Man, I don't want to listen to this person while I'm watching. I just want to watch, right? And then you'd have all the little goofy chat going on the side. People be cussing and saying whatever. And I mean, hell, the artists is like these two. They probably cussing too. Of course, they cussing through the whole thing. But that's the only part I want to hear, or I'm going to tolerate, because I expected that with them. They the ones I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. But the rest of y'all, man, I don't care about your commentary, your opinion, and oh my gosh, you be like, if you don't shut up, hey, So I generally don't. Damn, my window dirty. I gotta clean the inside of my car. I just washed my car, y'all. That's crazy. But no, I really just want to hear and see the real thing, right? So that's what I watched. And if you're not familiar, well, then you ain't gonna understand the rest of this whole video, but you might get curious, go watch it, and then you'll understand. But the game and YG are both West Coast, LA specific, LA County, to get broad with it, because there's many parts to LA, and when you get into the specifics of LA, everybody claims their neighborhoods and areas more so than LA, exactly. But when speaking to the world, the first thing they're gonna say if you ask somebody, hey man, so where you originally from? You'll be like, LA, and if they about that other life, then that's, and if you don't know, you ask somebody where they from, that could, man, you could set some shit off saying that the wrong way. Just make sure your tone is right when you ask that question, just be like, hey, where are you originally from? Don't even say where you're from, goddamn, because that can be heated, unfortunately, in the history of all that. But both of these artists have a long history with the gang life, and both of them are under the umbrella. I repeat, the umbrella of what tends to be known as the blood family of gangs. Okay, now, if you know, I mean, nobody, unless you're living under a rock, don't know what Crips and Bloods are and all of that. But even though somebody might know what Crips and Bloods are, that don't mean that they understand the ins, the outs, the all arounds. And I'm not, and let me say before I get further into that part, I'm riding through Metro ATL areas as I speak, and I know nothing better in this world than I know my own town. And even that is hard to understand sometimes because it's always changing. The demographic is always changing. And even what would relate to, speaking of this whole, subculture, criminal lifestyle, mostly is the honest truth of it, because some people try to pretend like gang life doesn't have to be criminal, which it doesn't, but that's pretty much how it starts and what it's all about. I mean, it's like, I hate when people mention gangs and pretend it's just family, you know what I'm saying? It's just people who had less getting together and making a family. Yeah, but, it's like, nah, man, let's get real about what that is and what that really represents at its core. They are, at the end of the day, they're criminal organizations. But the difference, I would say, in most street gangs and other gangs that don't say that they are gangs, you got government factions, regimes that are running whole countries that are gangs, okay, that do gang activity and gang behavior, all right? But they don't get that title because they dictate what gets put in the dictionary, more or less, They set standards, they create legal systems and push their agendas and set up their boundaries of what's on their side and what's not, and what has to be a threat to them and what they consider So, as far as the street side of things, I mean, in the history of humanity, anytime people have been miseducated, disenfranchised economically, family-wise, breakdown of the nuclear home structure, the infrastructure of father, mother, truly raising children properly, you know what I'm saying? Moral standards, ethics, just the whole long list of what generally codes a person to stay on the more or less straight and narrow in a very crooked world. So it's impossible to be completely squeaky clean anybody. I don't give a damn who you are, but like at least you mean well and you're trying to do right, versus just being out there, wilding out and showing up in that way because you're frustrated because you came from so much dysfunction and you know nothing but various forms of dysfunction, right? And like I say, it goes on every level. You got rich brats that steal presidencies and create regimes that are way worse of a terror than any street organization, okay, in the formal terms that they like to use sometimes to define themselves, okay, any gang could ever be. These folk doing it on the ultimate level. They represent a country, and within the country, and got so many factions of control and who's running what and what dictates what and all that. And it's important that I lay that out in the beginning because I got a big point to make about something I was proud of in this verses that I didn't expect. I admit I didn't. I was saying, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? And yo, all I got to say is YG, my YG, West Side, man, damn, tell them shit. I mean, and I'm gonna get to it, what I mean by why I got excited like that for YG. All right. So, again, back to the very beginning, like I say, I was never a diehard fan of either but I got appreciation for both with select songs from their catalogs. That's the best way I can put it. And in that, I would also add, I've seen both of them do interviews where you see a side of them you don't often see, which is typical of most artists in the industry, music industry, or entertainment industry at large, which I'm a part of as an actor and writer, producer, the things I do, in addition to being a visual artist and so many things I'm involved in, comic books, all that, you know. And if you don't know, ONYXCON started as a Comic-Con, so there you go. I mean, we were always involved with the public and arts entertainment. So when I saw this, I said, okay, let me give this a chance, man. Let me see how much either one of them is gonna do songs that I like by them and bring out special guests, which, quite frankly, for both of them, most of the tracks I like from either have been ones they did collaborations with, you know, an R&B artist or another rapper or whatever. And some of those joints, some of my best wishes got fulfilled. Sometimes shorter than I wanted it to be. Like, they do a little bit of the song, and it is verses. It is Jamaican dance hall style DJing. You know, it's like, bring it up, selector. Okay, kick the rhythm, and then be like, all right, you know, and then cut the song halfway or just a quarter of the song and go on to the next one, talk a little shit, and then go on to the next one. Definitely that format on every verse, appreciating that, especially is one of my favorites, you know. So anyway, the first thing I noticed was both these OGs came out as one. They didn't come out from opposing sides of the stage. They walked out, camera in front of them on the you know, they using steady cam right in front of them. If you know technical, you feel what I'm saying. All my film people, they got the steady cam in front of them, walking them out. They, you know, hugged up brother to brother. You know, Game is much taller than YG. He's like basketball player height. I don't know how tall YG is, but Game's a big dude. And you realize how big when you see him on that stage with all these other, you know, 90% men, and you got every height, and even with all these big football player type dudes and basketball player type dudes. And he's in that basketball / football player size, you know, stature. He's a big dude. And, you know, and YG ain't no little guy, but he's, you know, he's shorter, you know. And I don't know how tall either. I gotta look that up. Maybe I'll look that up. Damn, this is not gonna be edited. This is live. I was gonna say I can flash it on the screen later. But anyway, y'all look it up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? But they walked out together, man, like brothers. And I really appreciated that. That set the tone so importantly for me. I mean, it actually may have been the reason I decided I'm gonna see where this goes, because I didn't intend to watch the whole thing. I mean, and at some points I did just kind of have it on while I'm, you know, doing other stuff, and it's just in the background, or turned it down because I'm just like, okay, I can't. I have an N-bomb. There's so much I can hear near this, near that in a damn day from black folk talking to each other like that, man. I don't like that personally. I'm at an age, I'm at a personal state of consciousness that's not above understanding or relating to it, because I came up in it, in my family, in my friendships. It was there. In some ways it's still there, but not the same way as cats from the show enough hood. I always say a lot of what people fantasize about when they see these rappers from these really true hood situations, you know, people who live adjacent versus those who live nothing in common whatsoever, but wanting to relate so badly, which is a lot of the fan base of why these guys get popular. I mean, let's face it, they say for years that all throughout my middle school, high school, everything, they all said if it weren't for the money spent by suburban white kids that fantasize about these black rappers from these hoods and want to rap their lyrics and be like them or cool like them, what they think is whatever, they would have never become as big. They would have made all them gold and platinum, you know, leaps and be going on tour to sell out crowds. I mean, you know, it's not to say that they weren't at home first, but it ain't enough people at home. And then it's so regional. Like, we know for a fact, you start in Atlanta, you start in LA, you start in Chicago, New York, whatever, home gonna love you first. The machine will make the rest of the country love you by pushing you on the radio. You'll get so many sales because at a certain point, man, people be like, man, who that dude from New York again? They playing that shit again. By the second week, you like, yeah, they been playing this so much, but it is kind of catchy. By the third week, you like, I ain't gonna front, man, this shit my jam, this my jam. That's how they get us. That's how they been getting us forever. Now sometimes, and it's a mental breakdown strategy, because sometimes it just don't work. This shit is just whack to me. People are individuals, and that ain't it, man. I don't like this. I don't like that song. Oh, that shit again. Cut that shit off. I don't want to hear it, right? So it depends on the person, right? But large in part, there's a formula, and it works for the masses. If it didn't, hip hop as a music form, okay, because it's not just the music, but hip hop as a music form and a cultural phenomenon would have never reached the levels it did without, you know, years and years of radio and what they used to call payola back in the day. Look at this deer just chilling. I hope he don't run. Don't run. Don't run. Okay, he ain't running. He's so used to people. These deer out here. These deer out here got folk reaching in a bag of corn in their car and putting their hand out the window and getting spoon fed from the palm. Anyway, listen. So, yeah, YG and Game came out as a crew. They came out as homies. They came out as brothers. And it really did have this look like big brother, little brother. And it is. I mean, quite frankly, I think Game is a little bit older than YG. So even that makes sense for the way that looked, you know. And there is that respect amongst them. Like, you know, one looks up to one. I mean, and he gave him, that was a very important part of the thing. I won't wait to say it. I'll say it now. You know, Game gave YG his verbal roses, so to speak, on stage to say how much he appreciated him for being like the next big rapper from the West Coast, and particularly the next big blood rapper, because, you know, they definitely salute, you know, the different groups they stand on to come out of LA area, West Coast, make a name and all that kind of stuff. So that was a cool moment. That was, you know, like I said, I just love the fact there was solidarity and it never looked like, you know, we beefing just because this is Versus, which I hate when they do that, when they play that game. Like, I wish the damn thing wasn't even called Versus. I think at this stage in history, since everybody always wants to say hip hop won, or if it's R&B won, or whatever with the culture, everybody do the culture. I'll tell you how I feel about that phrase, the culture. It's bullshit. There is no one culture, because everything that be going on these shows don't represent me as a fan. I like what I like about it, and I leave the rest. You know what I'm saying? I go back to my life, and it may not have nothing to do with most of what was going on in that stage, but I can appreciate certain songs and whatnot, right? Plain and simple. So I did dig that they kept it positive and kept reminding everybody that they were not on no beef type shit for the night. That this was, they didn't even be like, oh, that's what we doing? Well, fuck you then. I got this next one up. You ain't gonna do nothing to this one. They gonna remember this, motherfucker. Fuck you. It wasn't none of that shit. And sometimes they do that, and it's supposed to be playful, but it never comes off playful. And usually those be the ones where in the past we got that mess go down like 3 6 Mafia versus Bone, and it turned into a melee. And then they had to calm down for the rest of the night, but everybody was on edge for the rest of the night. That was just stupid, you know? And that's what happens if you play with that energy, if you pretend that talking and acting that way don't lead to other things. Alrighty. So, yeah, as I was saying, it was a very eventful evening. And hold on right quick. Let me get my tunes going up in here. I want to hear. All right. Trying to get some music going in the background on the low, but maybe that's the universe telling me nope, don't mess up this live for yourself. You ain't gonna be able to keep no music on it, because it's, yeah. I might add some music later. I might go back in YouTube and add some music. See if I can do that. I've never tried to do that to a live where I didn't have music going, because I had no issues with copyright. So, you know, I mean, I was gonna turn it down low, but sometimes it don't matter. They'd be like, "Is that LL Cool J? This is banned in 50 countries. This is banned, period." You know, I ain't got time for that, man. I need these videos to be clocking some watch time hours so we can get monetized and get what we deserve. Matter of fact, hit that like and that subscribe button right now. I appreciate you. So, on topic, you know, YG and the Game is what I'm talking about, the verses from last night. If anybody saw it, if you didn't see it, I'm just reporting my perspective on it. And I've already given a little bit of history to how I'm not necessarily a diehard fan of either, but I have appreciation for some of their songs. And they did some of the ones that I like. Both of them did a little bit of something that I like. But the main thing I stressed is that they did not have beef energy between them, and that was cool as hell. I knew they were friends already, so it wouldn't make no sense to get up there and act like what y'all gonna put on a show and act like y'all enemies or something. That's not healthy, especially when you actually come from active gang sets. See, there's two types of, there's more than two, but two general types of rappers in the mainstream when it comes to rappers that have made it to the mainstream and coming from that kind of background. You got your rappers like Snoop, who, yes, if you dig deep enough, it ain't hard to find what set specific, the street, all that. I mean, when he talks about the 213 and all, he's talking about his set, but it's in a way that's covert. There's all these different words for every set. Like, you could name a certain area code, which I believe that's the area code for Long Beach. So that's not his specific set, but it wakes them up. Like, yeah, he's shouting out home, right? Then the other thing is, he's always wearing the Pittsburgh Steelers stuff. That's not just because he's a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's because gangs in LA not having, my best way I always explain this is, disenfranchised kids who feel like the world's ignoring them, life left them behind in different ways, latch on to the creativity of other people who actually did make something of substance and solidify it in society's standards, aka professional sports organizations, okay? And because they often are sports fans, and some of them are athletes, a great majority of them tend to play sports, and if they don't make it, you don't make it up out the hood, well, okay, the failed athletes that are bitter about that, who go to the streets, like every time there's a failure, I couldn't make it in this, I'm going back to the streets. You start in the streets, end in the streets, if they don't make it. Now, if they make it, yeah, they still salute the hood forever. They'll let everybody know where they're from, not specifically to the gang per se, because they don't want that bad press. If the gang is still active, which most are, and they're still doing the dirt that makes a gang, well, shit, they don't want that to reflect on them. But the difference, what I'm talking about is the OG way, the way it was when I was growing up. All of the rappers that were big when I was growing up, with the exception of a handful, there was a few, but for the most part, people didn't bang on wax, as there was a famous album that came out when I was coming up called Banging on Wax. And they literally took real life gang members from various hardcore sets throughout LA who had rapping skills and put them with DJs who were from the hood too. Because to my understanding, Bobcat, the legend, did a lot of the production on that joint, and he's an absolute legend, and he's a notable Crip, you know. But the only reason I found that out, I didn't even know that when that came out. I didn't know who Bobcat was when that came out. I didn't care. All I knew was, wow, this is really crazy that they made an album. But at the same time, in its time, we kind of looked at it like, maybe this is good, because at least they just talking bad about each other on music, but ain't nobody killing each other. And then there was music videos and everything where, you know, the members were so active and so much into stuff regularly that majority of them on the album cover and throughout the video are wearing shades, hats, bandanas over their nose. You can't see no faces. You don't know who. All you can hear is the lyrics. And then a few of them bold enough to show their face, but even them, they had on, everybody always had on some shades or something. They just not trying to show their full face, because they doing shit and they could still get caught up for the stuff that they did. And this was, you know, still at an era where at the beginning of surveillance cameras, it wasn't the best ones back then, but they had them, you know. And if anybody was there, hey, but that's that guy, he's up here rapping on the video, go get this silly motherfucker, you know. Yeah, that would have turned out real bad. And then the sad part is, a great deal of the people who are on that project are either dead and gone from violence, or, you know, everything else that the street got for you, you know, get caught up in the drugs, get caught up in whatever, and most of them are gone, to my understanding. And I only know that, again, from more recent interviews with people talking about stuff. I watched the interview, Bobcat was on an episode of, damn, I'm trying to remember the name of them. Two of my favorites, again, from the West Coast, from that side of life and everything. Dub C, okay, WC from WC in the Mad Circle. And, you know, the shadiest, Dub C. Barracuda with it. That's the homie. I love Barracuda. that lyric, because I'm a fisherman, it touches me. First time I ever caught a barracuda, I was like, barracuda with it. Call security. I'm in a white tee with jewelry. That's my shit. That's on the Ice Cube track, by the way, if you ain't never heard it. Matter of fact, that was probably the first Cube track that made me really respect the game. I knew about the game previously, knew he had bars, knew he had flow, but I wasn't really checking for game as much till he did that track with Cube, with Dub C. We up in here, so get used to it. And that's the one. And that's the one where on Barracuda, Dub C has his verse, barracuda with it. Call security. Just the way he did that whole West Coast LA accent. I love it. He's like, barracuda with it. Just over-pronouncing your syllables. All your consonants is hitting hard too. Oh man, I love that shit. So yeah, that was my joint. And then, and then here come Game at the end. He was like, ain't messing with no fool unless, I forget the exact lyrics, unless he's banging and wearing some chucks or something. I was like, God damn, what? It's just the way he said everything was just so, and it was on the beat and it was riding it hard and it was flowing. And I was like, who is this? I did not realize it was the Game. Like I say, knew who he was, had never heard him quite do it that way. And then I said, oh, that's who that is. I said, damn. All right, Game. All right, shit. I hear you, man. I hear you. And that was that. After that, I would look out. I would have an ear out for if he dropped a track. And if I liked it, I liked it. If it was still, he could have still been flowing his ass off. But if it's too just gangsta, that's not what I'm really there for. I respect that's what you're coming from, but I want to hear something else through. I want to hear that other part of you I hear in interviews. The intelligent man who sees the world beyond his hood, but still is forever from his hood. I get it. If that's all you knew, I don't expect nothing different. I know too many people like that in my own life, and they ain't necessarily gangbangers or nothing, but they just, from a rough side of life and basically live the same life whether they were ever in a gang or not. And that type of mentality, it will always be there on people who've been through that stuff. And then, in my own existence, because I've had to work around people like that and condition myself to how to survive amongst that and be respected, not fronting like, oh yeah, I'm just like y'all. No, look, man, I'm the educated, but I ain't taking no shit either. And they always respected me for that. And they admired me for that. Because they was like, yo, he ain't lame, he ain't corny, he ain't, all the typical opposite words of being G'd up and all, his G's and squares. Now he'd be like, this dude is a triangle, he's an octagon, he's a what shape? Any other shape, man. He miss me with all your shapes, There ain't no way to put me in no shape. You can't put me in no little bracket. I'll change shape if you give me a shape. But I'll always be a straight up, real dude, man. Real dude, come family, a real sense of love and understanding what we ought to be about. I don't care what. I'm on the human family forever and a day. I'm always looking for the best of the human family. I'm always looking for the most solid, genuine of anybody. And that part of a person is what's gonna always appeal to me and make me respect them, if at all. You feel me? And everybody gets at least 1% respect of just, yeah, you exist, so I gotta acknowledge your existence. And after that, if you ain't about shit, then you ain't about shit. But if you about something, you add points and your percentage can get higher and higher, And so anyway, like I've been around a lot, is my point. And when you have, you see things very, very versatile, and you have to, and it gives you that ear that I have for when I'm listening to hip hop that's from the rough side of the tracks. It's like, what you saying? Because depending on what you saying, I can rock with you, man. I mean, I will straight up be, you'll think I was from your hood, because I'm going to be bouncing to it when the shit on. I'll be like, damn, homie feeling it. Yeah, I'm feeling it, because I feel your essence, not the bullshit, the essence. I don't want to hear about don't tell me you proud to be out here killing your own people and proud to be dealing dope and all. No, that's what I'm going to be. I ain't feeling that. But if you say, yeah, I realized I was a pawn in that I was manipulated as a child, and becoming a child soldier, becoming a drug dealer, becoming all these things that these folks typically rap about. Okay, now I got more respect for you because you done been honest with you. You done been through therapy and you're doing it on wax, and that's gonna help somebody else do the therapy they're not doing, and hopefully they wake up too, and people can start healing. And that's how we get a baby. Always ask, how can we stop the violence? You can stop it when you do the work mentally and stop pretending that being a badass all the time is going to ever lead to stopping the violence. It's going to reinforce it every time. So throughout this whole versus, the one thing that did get on my nerves is I realized from both sides of it how little of their music I really knew. Well, more so YG. I've only heard the mainstream YG tracks. And only when he would do his mainstream tracks, you know, oh, I did a collab with this beautiful R&B singer, and she, you know, like the one with the girl, oh man, what's my joint? So when we gon' slide 400, when we gon' slide. That's my shit right there. I love that joint. I love that joint. Or the one he did, oh gosh, what is it? I can't even think of them all. He did most all the ones I liked last night, put it like that. But then Game got a bunch of joints like that. He's a little bit more, Game is like right on the verge of being that commercial gangster rapper that never went completely commercial. Why? And he kind of said it last night too, in his own way. First of all, both of them were getting drunk. They were drinking. But I noticed YG, he took a few sips. He got a little something in him or whatever. And like, I'm not a drinker, but I know what that drink do to people, you know? And as a lot of people commented in their reactions to this thing, they said, man, Game got twisted. Yeah, he was out of his mind drunk. But the weirdest thing is, and a lot of people say he can't hold his liquor, he can hold it enough to still stand and remember most of his damn lyrics. That blew my mind that he was still rapping his lyrics when he was out of it. Like, mind you, they were doing the whole, like I say, dance hall reggae style, cut it short, like start out, he'd do like one verse and be like, man, cut that shit off. I want to hear something else. Yeah, because probably frustrated, like, I can't remember the next verse, but I get one in, you know. I was impressed that he even did one, right? And at one point, being silly, he fell back into his homeboys and they pushed him back forward into the camera. He did that for show because the camera was right in front of him. But at the same time, he was drunk enough to literally be stumbling, you know, so he was getting sloppy. He was definitely getting sloppy drunk. And that was kind of ridiculous, but not kind of, is ridiculous. Yeah, come on, man. But at the end of the day, he said something that just made it all whatever it was going to be. He said, I'm still active. And I'm not going to quote exactly, but I remember the few words. You know, he's like, I'm still active, which in gang talk is like, that could mean I'm always ready to bang. I'm always ready to get into some violence if somebody bring it to me. It don't always have to mean violence, but that's a general way of it. I'm still active. He's saying, like, you know, I'm still in the hood. I'm still, even though I done made money and I live other places and all that, I'm always have my license, so to speak. I can always go back to the hood and ain't nobody gonna be shooting at me per se, because everybody know who I am and respect me, and I got folk that'll back me up. And he's, you know, yelled something back to his crew like, they gonna always back me up, and everybody was swooping and all that, and, you know, that's the salute they say. You know, everybody was doing all that. You know, it was, and, you know, they was in it, boy. They was in it deep. And that's what, and they, when I tell you they made that so known from the beginning, I said, good, man, this is not a versus, yo. This is a blood picnic. This is a freaking blood cookout. I was like, God damn, like, we're talking about probably 50 different hoods on the stage, 25 on each side. You know, each side had equal numbers of guys repping each rapper, but he knew each side knows knows somebody on the other side of the stage. So I was happy to see that too, because if I didn't see enough people cross the stage and dap each other up, I'd be like, oh shit. Because, you know, what a lot of people on the outside still looking in don't, like, people be late through pop culture. Like I say, commercialized gangster rap will make you think, well, you know, we set these standards that the hood told us. We analyzed these ghetto people years ago and found out that the Bloods wear red and the Crips wear blue, and just the wrong color will get you killed. And you know, yes, that still exists, sadly, in some neighborhoods all over the world where this got picked up, and even in the hometown of LA where it, you know, got its foundation of that. Specifically, not just the red-blue thing, but just saying Crips and Bloods. But the thing that got me really is that I know there's a lot of people who online, who in, because every time I see something that's, you know, about this topic, you always see somebody in the comments and you know they don't know what the hell they talking about. Probably ain't never been to LA. and want to comment on, you know, oh, he had on red. Why didn't the guy in blue not beat him up? Or they're like little kids that have been told the rules to a game that was broken from the start, and they don't know what's going on. First and foremost, yes, that's the original main history, but if you ever read Monster by Monster Cody, which was one of the first and only street biographies I ever purchased and read from cover to cover, he was a notable terror in his gang, begging for a Crip gang. And he said in the book, and throughout the book, he makes it very clear, 90% of everybody he ever had beef with, his hood, him personally, was another Crip gang. And the Crips are so big that they often, for years, for decades, have been beefing with each other more so than with blood sets. Or it could be simultaneously in some situations, depending on the order, structure of relativity to neighborhood, or just, you know, stuff that happens. Somebody from a whole other side of town, saw somebody at a party, got into a beef. It's usually stuff like that that starts mess, and it just escalates. And once one death occurs, everybody needs retaliation. Everybody wants to get back at the ops, you know, the opposition, the other team, the other group. And that's the bullshit that keeps this going and has kept it going. Add in drug trade and people making a living off of doing illegal activities, robberies, drugs, all of this bullshit, prostitution. Yes, all the ugly that most people don't bring up. Everybody wants to always talk about just, you know, wearing colors, standing on the block, looking cool in an outfit, dapping up your boy and talking shit, cussing every other word, and saying certain slang that other people don't quite understand, and some stuff is clear. That's the fantasy side of this shit that people are obsessed with, because the commercialization of it and what it looks like in a music video only covers what I just said. Throwing a rag in a camera in slow-mo, putting a gun up in a camera and doing like do all up in a camera. None of that shit equals real life actions and people really fucking dying over this shit and really saying one word and getting their head taken. Like seriously, not a slang term, literal bodies in streets, sheets over bodies, ambulances, mothers crying, yellow fucking tape, all that bullshit that people don't want to face is part of what you calling when you say you think it's cool. So there's my constant personal battle with trying to appreciate the art that I still see in how all this gets presented. And there is an art to the fashion. There is an art to taking something, quite frankly, I could go on and on about that, but you know, the history of bandanas as flags, before the word bandana was a word, okay? Some of the symbols that are commonly used and have been used for centuries, way before these gangs ever existed, okay? Way before the identity of a city, or there were no cities, there was just towns. Before there was towns, there was just villages. Before there was just villages, there were tribes. And when there were even tribes, people did not walk around with freaking gang rags on and shit. Because people love to make a comparison and make it like, oh yeah, even tribes, they were just gang. No, they're not. No, they're fucking not. But they fight with each other. Fighting with each other is not the only thing that makes a gang a gang. I'm sorry, just miss me with the dumb shit. Gangs are a result of urbanization and crime as a result of a lack of mental stabilities, plural, because there's many versions of mental instability, dysfunctional family units, the primary source of it all, lack of fathers that are real men. Because you can be in the home and still not be a real man, and you're going to get the same results. And everything else that has been said time and time again by everybody who's ever analyzed this stuff. And it is one of the #1 mental crises of modern America. Because what used to be demographically pigeonholed into the quote-unquote poorest ghettos, because a ghetto is not just a poor area. The word ghetto means any place that has enough people who live a certain way, are part of a certain culture, relatable in enough of a certain way, that is in that, and they're all in that neighborhood. That is a ghetto. That's the original meaning of the word ghetto. So you got rich ghettos, poor ghettos, middle class ghettos, right? But in the sense of how, not denotated, connotations, the connotation of the word, the regular everyday what people conjure when you say ghetto. You think of the poverty, you think of poor, you think of poor people living in a poor area with problems with each other because of depression, etc. All these problems, it's pressure all the time, right? Police harassment and corruption in these neighborhoods, etc., fucking etc. The other gang, you know what I mean? The blue and black gang, how the police can be sometimes. I keep giving everybody a sometimes, but large in part, everybody's fitting their description. The gangs acting like gangs. The cop gangs acting like cop gangs. You know what I mean? And this adds up over time. This adds up. And it equals what we've been seeing for generations, all through my generation. My father's generation before me, really witnessing the beginning of it, not knowing how much further that thing was going to go. But once crack cocaine and other types of illicit drugs became such a market, and the powers that be at the top, the ultimate gangs, said, we're going to turn a deaf ear and eye to it because we making so much money off of this and building so many prisons for the prison industrial complex, we going to be good, we don't give a fuck, let them kill each other. Famous line from The Godfather, they're animals anyway, so let them lose their souls. Now that was that movie, but in reality that got said at a whole bunch of other tables and golf courses and other places. And we live in the results of it, y'all. Okay? So round that back around to, like I said, my moment of the winning, we got a versus, because it is a big thing in the hip hop world right now. You do a versus, usually when you do a versus, you got an album coming out. So if either one of these guys got new music, their stuff is gonna be popping because people saw the verses, it puts them back in the limelight, there's hype about it, they'll make a few more sales than they would have if they had not done something like a versus prior to the release of that album, etc., right? They bring the neighborhoods up, they trying to bring more peace in LA, some groups are. I noticed that YG and Game both were at this peace walk I don't know, I think it was last year, I saw a video about that they walked through Compton and some other areas. And it was just a walk with all the gangs that were blood gangs mostly. It was, Pyru Nation, all of that from Pyru Street and other groups of Pyrus. Because, well, a lot of people, what I've learned from watching the information about all this, a lot of people say blood this, blood that. But Pyrus are a segment of their own and one of the oldest out of all of it. And so, and they do wear red and they have all that, and they may wear the darker red a lot of times, like burgundy and stuff, and then the other ones wear the bright red. But all that's neither here nor there. I could get all into, there's a million other colors, but I guess it is good to say only for one reason, because that don't know when there is illicit behavior going on. Oh, I guess it's okay because they're not red or blue. Look, it's more than likely on the radar for some nonsense. Not that it should be, or it makes any sense that it is. Wait till I get back to ATL to wear it, and then you gotta watch where you wear it in ATL nowadays. It's pathetic. Now they try to keep it here, but one thing about Atlanta, man, and this is the truth about a lot of towns, they try to bring them waves of that stuff in. It is here, it's established. There are gangs that call themselves Crips and Bloods in Atlanta, but that mess, that whole color bang, literally like you ain't gonna wear this and you can't wear it, man, shit. People like to wear too much. We love fashion in Atlanta. We like fashion. And we were always a town that adopted everybody else's shit into ours. So ain't nobody trying to hear that. Like, no, man. If I want to wear my striped rugby polo with my, whatever baseball cap that matches with my Jordans that match with my any kind of shoe that match, you ain't gonna say, oh, that kind of shoe mean this. Man, get out of here, man. And it's not to say that stuff does not still happen, but it don't last most of the time here because people want to live their fucking life. And sometimes the kids, because it's usually, who else, what does that sound like? Doesn't that sound like, it's kids that start that little goofy shit. Middle school kids, typically. By the time they're in high school, they might still be trying to hold on to it. Man, by the time they get college age, and they're not going to end up in college, if they live in that life most of the time. Some of them, I say, you know, I wish all that would just cease to exist. I really do. And it could be confusing for somebody even looking at a versus like this, being that 90% of everything everybody on the stage had on had some red in it or was all red. I mean, they were doing it old school style. They were in full uniform. I was like, good gosh. Like, damn. Which, the part that makes that kind of hard to watch is that, you know, kids are impressionable, man. And anybody who's been trying to be that or pretend they want to be that, that'll reinforce their feeling like I'm doing it for real if I do it the way those they the most true you could be. And I want to be like them. And it's like, man, they're doing that, but that's all they ever knew. You got an option. A lot of these kids, man, y'all got options. You got kids from burbs, straight up suburbs, trying to be something. You've never lived the pain that created that thing you were admiring like that. Admire the music, you like the rhythms. That's the art. That's why I always say, man, I pull the art out of everything. I reach into the sewers of humanity's bowel stream and pull out the fucking gold, because that's all you seeing that you appeal. I tell you all the time, the true meaning of art. Any and every creative expression that appeals to your senses, all of them. So when it starts appealing to your senses, you got to ask yourself, is it really gangsterism I want to do? No, you don't. I don't care how many little quick fist fights or wrestling matches or whatever you got into, unless you want to get your ass beat or beat ass every day, run the risk of getting killed every day, run the risk of people you love getting killed or shot at or whatever. Stop pretending that life got anything to do with what you're here to do. Leave that shit alone. Just be an artist. Understand what you really like is art. You like the dress code. Okay, well, there's limits to it though. And there's limits to where you can do certain things. I'm 50 and I'm not gonna go to LA wearing I got a wonderful Chicago Bulls hat that I love. I would wear it all the time I like that Bulls logo. But a Bulls hat is literally an insignia of general blood shit. And they have letters, they make the letters mean something else for every letter in the word Bulls and all that old stuff, man. I'm not here for that. I'm not trying to deal with the pressure of nobody looking at me side-eyed if I'm in a neighborhood or any area where they saluting that, literally carrying that code. And I could give them the same, I ain't gonna have time to give them the speech I'm giving y'all. I ain't gonna have time to say, hey man, look, I know what you think this is, but that ain't what it is. And blah, 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 blah. It ain't gonna be no time to say any of that. You know? It's pathetic, man. It's crazy. Yeah, y'all. Yeah, y'all. So, you know, you got a lot of people faking the funk and trying to be something, destroying neighborhoods that were never about all this madness and never had no reason to go that way. Like, these things gangs didn't just pop up out of nowhere. People didn't just wake up one day and put on certain colors and say that it meant this or meant that, or take a team and say, oh, that don't mean that no more, it means this for us. No, building upon a same code of certain stuff, and people were born into these things, sometimes feeling forced to align themselves with stuff that didn't even go with them personally, or to be cool with stuff even when it didn't go with them personally, just to survive. Just like, yo, I can't go outside and be talking about, hey man, all y'all should be doing better when everybody's on the bullshit. Like, and that's not ever be by everybody in the neighborhood, but if you're a certain age and that's what most kids get caught up in, then you're gonna be the oddball out, and you're not gonna have protection from the other kids dealing with the same problem in the next neighborhood that's got the same trauma. And that's where all that stuff goes. That's how it keeps going. And that's all I can keep thinking, knowing that I know all this history and have witnessed it verbatim in my own adjacent life experience. And I always say adjacent because, like I say, it ain't got nothing to do with me directly, but indirectly I've been affected. I've had friends and family that lost their lives to gang violence. You know what I mean? I've gotten that phone call in the middle of the night. I've gotten that bullshit. I know what that feels like. I know what them funerals look like. Ain't nothing cute about that shit, right? So when people just standing on the colorful side of it for entertainment and, doing the art of it. Because again, it's visual art, it's dance, it's music. These are arts. You rapping, it's rhythmic. You got on these clothes, that's fashion. You're showcasing the fabric, the flag, the bandana. It's still art, it's fashion, it's style, right? And then you're dancing. I actually enjoy seeing the celebratory dances when it's not for an actual, killed an enemy type bullshit. Even though the footwork and hand signals and things being done might technically, historically, still mean those things. But things can get new meanings. This is one I know about humanity. As time goes on, yeah, that only used to mean this. Now it can also mean this, man. We just having a good time. We happy to be here. I'm with my boys. It's a party. And I like to see that. I love to see that. Because that's art. That's art. It's tainted, but it's still art. I'm not going to you can't take away the title. The title, I always tell y'all, art is not, it's not good or bad. It's not that simple. It's very objective and it's very contextual. What's the context, y'all? What's the context of the situation? And they doing blood walks and all that stuff on stage and everything. It was cool to see people just having a good time, man. And for some of them guys, man, that might be the only time to that level they'll ever have in this life. It was like, the Game and YG literally invited them to, man, the greatest celebration of anything they could ever wish for in this life, because they'll never be on. The whole world's watching, and all we doing is having a good time, and ain't nobody tripping. You know what I'm saying? Now, was there still energy? Yes. and I couldn't help but think, ooh, I hope it stays right, because I know that there's been, there used to be a time where they said in LA anyway, and this, when I say this could be old as I don't know what. I just know it used to be true, that generally bloods didn't bang on each other. And if any conflicts happen, which always, of course, still happen, brothers fight, as they say, cousins fight, whatever. Yeah, but it wasn't public. It's like it never went to deaths per se. And then that started happening. And there have been neighborhoods that have been at it with each other where it's red on red. And that's been a thing now. That had already been a thing with the blues for a long time. Crip violence has always been a thing from what I understood. Because just so damn many. Anytime you get, numbers grow, everybody want to be king. Everybody want to be the best, the top. We the ones that run everything. We the best of the best, all of those stuff, right? And then you've got groups that have split off and, become their own thing and they used to be a Crip gang or used to be some form of blood or whatever. Now they want to be their own thing, all that type stuff. All that is happening and has happened. And in some cities, it's even more like that. Like I've heard that's the reason why Chicago got so violent, is because all the old stuff, it still exists, but you have all these kids that just want to do their own thing. And they clicked up so much into smaller cliques that's why it got so out of control, because the OGs can't control them and tell them, hey man, I told y'all, stop all that. We're not doing all that. Or enough is enough. That got squashed. And all this type of stuff. It's like nobody listening to no enough is enough. They just, till there's nothing, they just going crazy. Now that has, from what I hear about even up there, I ain't gonna get off into stuff I don't really know a lot about, but I hear the news, I see things, and I just, if it sounds like any progress, I acknowledge progress. And so I shout out the Chicago mayor, the brother up there. From what I hear, he did a lot of work changing the demographics of how that be looking. So, but back to this LA thing and back to this Verzuz, man. The greatest moment for me in the whole damn show was YG did a song. Okay? And I'll never forget when that song first came out, I couldn't believe I said, whoa. And I think this was during his first administration of regimeism, building what it has become, building his gang into what that became in the White House, right? But I'll never forget how hardcore that was and real for him to go there. Especially just being known for being, oh yeah, y'all bang on each other. Y'all always talking about what you're gonna do to another black man or woman. Oh yeah, that's, calling every woman a bitch and a hoe, and they all bitches and tricks, and oh my gosh. Like there's a song he did, I didn't even know he did. It was basically like they used the whole famous Snoop chorus. Bitches ain't nothing but hoes and tricks. I was like, what? Damn, man, can we get past this? Are we still like, Yeah, he had a song like that that must have been one of his old classics for a hood classic. I never heard it in my life. He did it last night, and I was like, okay, YG, got you, bro. But like I say, for me, best thing he did, shit, boy, when he did that, and then he knew. When I tell you, first of all, the audience, you could see from the audience to the gangs on stage, they were either half or half. Some people froze. They just kind of nodded along to the beat, but they didn't throw no hands up. They wasn't celebratory. They weren't showing any side perspective. And some of them guys on the stage, and I said, see, some of these be the ones who don't never vote. The other ones be the ones who did vote. And some of them motherfuckers, if they getting that money, they getting that paper, all they care about is money. And if they with that bullshit, and if they done got in on the sides of crypto and got their little whatever, oh yeah, they what you mean, man? Shit, you did all right for me. Sure, I'm making money. No, it ain't because of him, fool. And he ain't looking out for you. You having a good day now. You having a good week, a good month. Keep living. You'll find out. And I appreciate YG for making that joint and saying what he had to say and performing it on the biggest stage possible right now. I was so lit for that. And Game was rocking with him on it. Like, he looked kind of like, damn, you doing that, G? I mean, he's probably too drunk to care one way or another, but he wasn't too drunk. He got with it. He was like, damn right, homie, I'm with you on it. If you gonna do it, I'm rocking with you. And I love that they did that. And he said after, I might get in trouble for it, but it is what I think he said, it is what it is, something like that. But he said, I might get in trouble. Like, he knew this gonna be some shit. They gonna be talking about me, or either not. Because here's the funny thing, I ain't heard nobody talking about that, and I laughed. But what did they mention about him today? YG arrested, first they said after the damn, something I saw said after the Verzuz. It was not after. I looked it up, and factually what happened was he was never arrested. He was never detained. He was questioned. He was held for a minute and took to a station in reference to something that somehow he was aligned with some guys who did some other shit. You in a gang, anybody who do anything, you forever in the gang. And then it's like, you so active, like that Game said, if you stay active, like there's two different rappers, like I told y'all. You got the ones who still in the street all the time, still hanging on the block all the time, and then the ones who, I know everybody over there, but I don't go see them like that, because if I do, it's causing my family, and you trying to live a separate life. You trying to live what they call square life. Then be that. Like, get away from all that so you can not have these things happen, but these cats still in it. They still in it. So something he dealt with got him questioned. And he was clean. He went on to the show. He was allowed to perform. Because he could have, imagine that. He could have been held all day, all night, and the show would have never happened. All right. Just trying to get the thing lined up here, y'all. We're going to keep it talking. All right. So as I was saying, YG dodged that situation legally and was still able to perform. Like I say, I'm glad he was, because that was the highlight of it for the evening for me when he did the FDT joint. That was on point, goddamn. I was like, and stood on it hard, like whatever, man. I said what I said. I was like, represent, man. And there was people, like I said, the crowd was kind of half and half. There was some people who was cheering, there was people who were quiet. I laughed, because I was like, y'all all, I'm talking about y'all rallying, everybody throwing rags and wilding out. They were doing that too, the ones who were with it. But the ones who wasn't, hands went down. Folk got all, shuffling their feet, kind of looking at the ground. So you scared of this, but you ain't scared to go back home and get it on to the crack of dawn against each other. I swear. That's all I got to say about that, man. I appreciate the ones who understand what both of these organizations, the red and the blue, originally were supposed to be about. They were originally Young Panther groups. They were originally revolutionaries. They were originally supposed to be protecting black neighborhoods from corrupt police. They were originally supposed to be the young version of the grown Panthers, which, Panthers had their issues too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these, cookie cutter people who think historically that just because you say that this is generally what something was about, that everybody in it was for the up and up. They wouldn't have been able to infiltrate it. The FBI wouldn't have been able to do what they did to it and break it down and destroy it if it hadn't had corruption from within. Story of America. But the larger principles that the Panthers stood on, and the larger, and if you really know what they were about and you're not narrow-minded to think they were just a black supremacist group and hated other people, that's bullshit. That's not what Real Panthers were about. Real Panthers were aligned with all kind of other groups. They equaled all the constructs, white, black, whoever, as long as you was about all power to the people. It was about social justice, civil rights for all people's communities. That's what it really was about. And yes, a great number of the members did have ideals of sovereignty, but as that was evolving, because they were young, man. The problem with youth is you think you know it all, but if you live long enough, you'll see everybody, whenever they're about to really change and make a difference, that's usually when they come get them, or send somebody to get them, or have something within happen to destroy it. Because they know the timeline of how people think and how they might change for the stronger standpoint of everybody could be happy together. It's like, oh shit. That doesn't help business as usual for the ultimate gains, because they're trying to keep a finger on everybody's pulse and keep everybody where they want them and at each other. So yeah. But speaking more of the unity, and then I'm gonna just close this thing on out and y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. But the last great thing I noticed was when they did a tribute with, both of them had done music with the late great Nipsey Hussle. And they did some of those tracks and just let the DJ would just let the part play where Nip, you could hear his voice, you hear his part, and everybody was, you know, emotional and waving and hopping and doing all the dances and salutes and everything. It was tight. And the best thing, they brought out a couple of Crip homies, because what people don't understand right now, what's happening, what has been happening for some, SOME, and I hope it continues, in the attempt to try to get some unity and true, like it's happened before, different truces, but not just a regular truce. We talking about a literal, we don't even need a truce. We just gonna be a unit. It's us against anybody who ain't with us having this unity. And so a lot of Crip and Blood gangs in LA, not all, but a great number of them are teaming up, because for one thing, what happened is a lot of them had common enemies. If two Crip gangs are beefing and they're beefing with a Blood gang too, well, hell, the Bloods is like, any of my enemies is my friend, right? So that's what happened. And then slowly but surely over time, it's led to even other just, hey man, ceasefire. Let's just quiet all that in this whole area. Naturally, everybody ain't with it. Beefs never die. Folk ain't got old enough to say, man, enough is enough. What happens is we just gonna keep killing each other and going to jail. But some people are waking up. So anyway, there was a couple of guys from, I mean, I don't know who they were, but everybody seemed to know them, and they came out and did a Crip walk on that part. And nobody was tripping on them. Everybody just let them do their thing. Most people were cheering them on, which I thought was a signal of what I'm saying, that there are Bloods that are like, these are my homies now. I don't give a damn what color you got. I don't give a damn how different a little bit, few steps of your dance is. We won, man. We all come from the same bullshit. We gonna stand together and we gonna ride this thing out like that. So that was good to see. I hope that continues. For the I would have to say 80% of it was stuff I'm not with and really hate to constantly see, because it just ain't nothing. It's positive to them because it's just one big party and it's what they used to. For everybody else looking in that ain't coming from that rougher situation, man, I just want to hear you smooth shit, man. I like when the girls came out. Oh, I had to mention that. That's a fine. And I know they were all probably strippers together. Yeah, y'all. So, you know, to see a couple of cats from what generally gets perceived to be the other side or whatever take the stage while they were honoring Nip, who obviously represents the other side and everything, to really fully make it clear that they really ain't no damn sides. It's just whoever's with me is with me. Whoever's with us is with us. Whoever's cool is cool. And that's where it needs to be anyway, period. You know, that's really where it needs to be with all this stuff. And that's with everything that separates us as human beings. Like, you know, people have gang activity over soccer games. We saw it in my city. Oh, fucking after the England and Australia, I mean, not Australia, Argentina game, and fucking Argentinians in particular, man. Signal. Here we go. I was gonna say, like, you know, it goes down in sporting events. It goes down with college campuses, between fraternities, sororities. Okay, people, if there's a reason to separate, people use those things as, I'm over here, you over there, we fight. You know, it don't need to be like that, but it be like that. And it ain't gotta stay like that. It's just, it's always a choice. I don't like when people make it seem like that's just how people are. Yeah, no. Because I've been in situations where once you let it be known, this is absolute zero tolerance, which is why I always say here on my channel, zero tolerance for trolls. If you let a mofo sit up and talk shit all the time, then yes, you will let that energy fester, and before you know it, you got ops. You got people you got to handle. You know, instead of, man, if you don't get the hell out of here, and they get the message, like, man, he don't even want to play. It's not a game. Because people who are that depressed and pathetic, to them, starting shit and being bullies and assholes, like, that's their outlet for all their other depression. How else can you explain messing with somebody you do not know? Where's the logic in assuming this person I don't know what I got access to, you don't know who I have access to, you don't know what resources I have to handle a bad situation. And even though I may not know the same about you, I didn't want to know. You the one started the shit. You see what I'm saying? So when people start stuff, hey man, the result gonna go where it can go. You know, and it doesn't make sense to keep letting that fester to that point where I want to have to show you what I mean by that definition. I don't want to never go there, man. I got too many other, that's not the life I'm here to live. You know, the resources I have to protect myself, keep my loved ones and myself safe, man, that's last case scenario. So why would I allow you to make it first case scenario talking shit on my channel? It's not gonna happen, man. We keep that dead around here. We don't allow it. And I say that in passing to the end, y'all, because I want y'all to, I know y'all may think, why is he on that? What are we talking about that for? Because it relates. It relates, because a lot of the reason why a lot of these things that have become what they became, some of it all started from one bad decision. Literally, whole gangs, whole streets got titled gangs in LA because of one bad. There's areas where they not all of LA was banging or is banging still to this day. There's areas of Los Angeles County wish you would bring that BS over there. The only gangs that matter gonna let you know we ain't with zero tolerance. The cops over there gonna be like, we don't have that problem over here. You might have some kids that listen to the music and wanna do a little dance and twist their fingers up when no one's looking and say, is that how they do it? You know, but that ain't, no, we ain't trying to live none of that nightmare. And we'll persecute to the highest degree of the law to make sure it doesn't happen there, because the resources are important to those people. They are going to protect what they've stolen as colonizers and gatekeepers and all the other words that apply to how that wealth is usually distributed in them other areas. They're not gonna let you play, man. They're not gonna let you play. So those of us who understand these things, we gotta be the same way. Though we are adjacent to all this, because, yo, you might know somebody in your family or whatever, that don't mean you gotta accept their bullshit. That's their path, not yours. Keep that nonsense up out your life, man. Enjoy the show. Support the art of it all, because that's the only part that truly matters. When anyone's gone, what they really gonna be talking about? The art. They'll never know the person fully. They're gonna know your art, though. So salute to the artists. 2 artists hit the stage. Did a show, man. Check it out. For better or for worse, I enjoyed some parts of it, and I hope they continue to evolve. Big major shout out to YG for how he put it down on that one track. You know what I mean?